waged not for love but for land, not for hope but for profit, and when she had faltered, when her voice had cracked during her vows and her eyes had betrayed her heart up, they had turned on her with venom, whispering that she was no true bride, no loyal woman, that she deserved nothing but shame, and so shame was what they tried to heap upon her. Yet as lightning split the sky above her and thunder rolled like cannon fire across the valley, she dared whisper a prayer into the storm, her voice stolen almost as soon as it left her lips. Lord, don't let me die here, not like this. Note forgotten. Her knees buckled, mud sucking at her shoes, her gown heavy as chains, and she thought for a moment that this was indeed how it would end, her breath stolen by cold, her story erased by rain. But then she heard it, a sound that did not belong to the storm, the steady crunch of boots against the wet ground, deliberate, unhurried, a rhythm that spoke of a man who did not fear thunder or lightning because he had weathered storms inside himself far greater than these. Out of the sheets of rain came a figure on horseback, a broad-shouldered cowboy whose coat hung heavy with water and whose hat brim dripped with each step of his mount, and as he reined in the horse and swung down with the practiced grace of one born to the saddle, the bride felt her heart seize, not from fear but from some wild hope she dared not name. He walked toward her, mud sucking at his boots, and even through the blur of rain she could see the cut of his jaw, the steel in his eyes, gray like the storm itself, and though his expression was carved from stone, something flickered through, something fierce and protective as his gaze took in the sight of her bound form, the bruises at her wrists, the tremble of her lips. Without a word, he reached to his belt, drew a knife that gleamed silver in the lightning flash, and with one swift motion sliced through the ropes, the strands falling uselessly to the mud as though they had never held her at all. She pitched forward, too weak to stand, but his arms were there, strong and steady, catching her against his chest, his coat rough against her cheek but warmer than anything she had felt all day, and for a long heartbeat she simply let herself be held, the storm roaring around them while his body formed a wall between her and the worst of it. You're safe now, he murmured, his voice low and steady, carrying a promise as sure as bad talk, and then, softer still, words that startled her as much as the thunder above, come home with me. Her breath caught at those words, not only because no one had ever spoken them with such quiet certainty but because they sounded less like an invitation and more like a vow, as though this cowboy, stranger though he was, had already decided she belonged not in the mud, not in disgrace, but under the roof of someone who would guard her as fiercely as he would guard his own life. And though every thought in her head screamed confusion, her heart clung desperately to the safety he offered like a